You saw the blood. There it was, bright on the paper or streaked through the bowl. And your stomach dropped just for a second. Then you told yourself what you have told yourself before. It is the hemorrhoids again. It is something you ate. It is nothing. Or maybe it was the tiredness, that deep tiredness that sits in your bones, the kind no amount of sleep ever seems to fix. So you blamed the long week or the stress or just getting older, and you found a reason to go back to bed. If you have done this even once, you are not weak and you are not foolish. You are completely normal. This is exactly how it goes for almost everyone, and it is exactly what colon cancer counts on. Because this disease rarely screams. Instead, it whispers, and it whispers in a language identical to harmless things. Every warning sign it sends has an innocent twin, an everyday explanation that sounds so reasonable you stop looking. And that one comfortable story is the reason it so often gets caught late when it did not have to be. So, in the next few minutes, I am going to show you the 7 silent signs and the innocent twin that each one hides behind. But stay until number 1, because it is the one people ignore the longest, and it is the one where waiting does the most damage of all. First, the thing almost nobody tells you. The danger of colon cancer isn't that it gives no warning. In fact, about 70% of patients truly have no symptoms when the disease first takes hold, and that part is real. But when the signs finally surface, they're so mild and so ordinary that people, and sometimes even their doctors, wave them off. Only about 1 in 3 colorectal cancers is caught early while it's still localized, and the rest are found later, after the whispering has been ignored for months. And here's what should make you sit up straight. In 2026 alone, an estimated 158,000 new cases will be diagnosed in the United States, and more than 55,000 people will die from it. It's the second leading cause of cancer death in the country, but among adults under 50, it has climbed to number 1, and most of them aren't diagnosed until it has already spread. And what's worse is that the rates in younger people keep rising year after year, even as they fall in older adults who get screened. But there's a reason the young get caught late. Doctors don't expect colon cancer in a 35-year-old, so the symptoms get pinned on diet, on stress, or on a hectic life, while the months slip by. But here's the hopeful part, though. Most of these cancers begin as small growths called polyps, which can take years to turn dangerous, and that slow timeline is your window. The whole game is noticing the signs before that window closes. So let's count down the 7 signals and learn to hear them for what they really are. Coming in at number 7 is persistent bloating, cramping, and belly pain that just won't settle. Everyone gets gas, and everyone has an off day after a heavy meal. So when your lower belly feels tight, swollen, or crampy for weeks on end, the easy story is indigestion, or a sensitive stomach, or irritable bowel syndrome. But here's what's actually happening when it isn't any of those. A growing tumor can partly block the bowel or press on the tissue around it, which produces chronic, nagging discomfort that has nothing to do with what you ate for dinner. The innocent twin here is IBS, and it's a convincing one because the two share almost every symptom: the cramping, the bloating, the gas, and the changes in how you go. The difference is the pattern, because IBS tends to flare, settle, and flare again. But pain that's new, that keeps returning and that never fully clears, especially when it shows up next to another sign on this list, is not a bad burrito. It's a message. And people dismiss this one for months, sometimes years, because indigestion is so easy to believe. So ask yourself a simple question. Is this an occasional visitor, or has it moved in? Because if the discomfort has become a fixture in your week, that's your colon raising its hand. Number 6 is a deep, unexplained tiredness that sleep just doesn't fix. This is the sneakiest sign on the whole list because you can't see it, and it comes with the most believable excuse in the world. You're tired? Of course you are. You're busy, you're stressed, and you're not 25 anymore. But here's the mechanism almost no one connects. A tumor in the colon can bleed slowly, a tiny amount at a time, so little that you'll never spot it in the bowl. And drip by drip, week after week, it quietly drains your iron stores until you develop iron deficiency anemia, so your blood loses its ability to carry oxygen the way it should. The result is exhaustion that rest can't touch, weakness, pale skin, dizziness, and shortness of breath after a single flight of stairs. And here's why doctors take it so seriously. In men and in women past menopause, unexplained iron deficiency anemia is treated as a reason to look inside the colon, because so often that hidden, invisible bleed is exactly where it's coming from. A simple blood test can catch it, and it's one of the most overlooked clues there is. So if you're bone tired for no reason you can name, and your skin has gone pale or you're winded more easily than before, understand this. It might not be a lifestyle problem at all, because it can be a slow blood loss problem instead, and the source can be your colon. That brings us to number 5, which is stool that has turned narrow, thin, or ribbon-like. Most people never look. And the few who do find a quick explanation, maybe a change in diet, more water, less water, or just a strange day. But here's why the shape genuinely matters. When a tumor grows along the inner wall of the colon or rectum, it slowly narrows the channel that stool has to travel through, so the stool comes out pencil thin, squeezing through the space that's left. One unusual bowel movement means nothing. But if your stool has become consistently and noticeably narrower than it always used to be, and it stays that way for weeks, that's not a quirk of your diet. Instead, it can be a partial obstruction forming inside you, and it deserves a real examination, not a shrug and a flush. This is one of the few signs you can actually watch for with your own eyes. So don't look away out of squeamishness. Watch the trend, not the single day, because your body rarely changes its shape for no reason. Number 4 is a change in your bowel habits that simply won't return to normal. That might be new, stubborn constipation, diarrhea that lingers long past any bug, or the exhausting pattern of swinging back and forth between the two. The comfortable story is travel, a diet change, or your body just getting older and slower. But the truth is, your bowel habits are one of the most honest signals your body has, and a real change that lasts more than a few weeks is worth your full attention. A tumor changes how stool forms, how it moves, and how completely the bowel empties. And that reveals itself as a shift in rhythm you can't pin on anything you actually did. It can also show up as a feeling that you can't fully empty, no matter how long you sit there. So think about what your normal genuinely was a year ago, and compare it honestly to now. One bad week after vacation is nothing, but a new normal that won't reverse, a body that used to be predictable and suddenly isn't, is your colon asking plainly to be checked. Now, number 3 is the feeling that you're never quite finished. You go to the bathroom and you do everything right, but you stand up still feeling like something's left behind, like something's stuck right at the exit. Doctors have a name for this. It's called tenesmus, and it's one of the most frustrating, most dismissed sensations a body can produce. The easy label is hemorrhoids, weak bowels, or just the way you're built. But here's what's really going on. A tumor sitting low in the rectum can press on the area and irritate the nerve endings there, so it sends your brain a false alarm that there's stool waiting to pass, even in the moments right after you've completely emptied. So you go back, and nothing comes, and the urge returns anyway. That constant phantom signal, that nagging sense the job is never quite done, is a recognized warning sign, not a quirk of your personal plumbing. An occasional feeling like this is normal. But if it's there day after day, refusing to leave, take it seriously, and get it looked at. Number 2 is weight that's falling off you without any effort at all. On the surface, this one sounds like a gift, the thing half the world is chasing. You step on the scale, and you're down 5 pounds, then 10, and you happily tell yourself it's the cleaner eating, or the stress, or finally moving more. But here's the part that should stop you cold. Unexplained weight loss, especially shedding 5% or more of your body weight, or more than 10 pounds over a few months without trying, is one of the more serious signals on this entire list. That's because cancer is a metabolically hungry process that burns through your body's resources, and it can quietly kill your appetite and disrupt how you digest and absorb nutrients. So the pounds melt away, even though nothing in your life has earned it. You might notice it before the scale does, in clothes that have suddenly gone loose, or a belt cinched a notch tighter than last month. And be especially alert when it arrives alongside another sign here, like the fatigue or the bloating. Weight loss you genuinely can't account for is never just good luck or willpower you didn't know you had. Instead, it's a pointed question your body is asking you, and that question deserves a real answer from a doctor, not a celebration. And that brings us to number 1, the sign people explain away the longest, and the one where the delay does the most damage of all: blood. On the toilet paper, in the bowl, red streaks in the stool, or stool gone dark and tarry from bleeding higher up the tract. Bright red usually means lower down, near the rectum, while dark and black can mean it started further up. Here's the trap, laid out exactly. When younger adults show up complaining of rectal bleeding, studies find that nearly half of them genuinely do turn out to have hemorrhoids. So the bleeding gets blamed on hemorrhoids, the investigation stops right there, and everyone breathes easier. But that one comfortable assumption is a big reason young patients with rectal cancer wait, on average, around 7 months from their first symptom to actual treatment, while patients over 50 wait closer to a single month, 7 months versus 1. That gap is the exact distance between catching this early, when it's highly treatable, and catching it late, when it often isn't. But the fix is simple. You name it out loud, and you don't let a doctor close the file on hemorrhoids if the bleeding keeps coming back. Blood in your stool is not always cancer, and it truly is often something minor. But it is never, ever normal, and it should never be the one thing you decide to keep to yourself. If it's bleeding, it gets checked, every single time, no exceptions. So here's the pattern hiding underneath all 7. Colon cancer isn't silent. Instead, it's fluent in disguise. Bloating wears the mask of IBS, exhaustion wears the mask of a busy life, and bleeding wears the mask of hemorrhoids. Every sign has an innocent twin, and almost always that innocent twin really is the right answer, which is precisely why the dangerous version slips straight through unnoticed. You don't beat this by panicking over every twinge. You beat it by refusing to let a comforting story be the final word. So here are your simple triggers to call a doctor. It's 2 or more of these signs showing up together, or any one of them that won't quit after a couple of weeks, or blood ever, full stop. And this matters because screening genuinely works, because finding and removing those early polyps can prevent the majority of deaths from this disease. Screening is recommended starting at age 45 for most people, and earlier if colon cancer runs in your family. So if any sign on this list has lasted more than a couple of weeks, that's not the moment to wait and watch. It's the moment to pick up the phone. Your colon has been speaking this whole time, and the only real danger is deciding not to listen. If this helped you finally hear what your body's been saying, subscribe. Your gut will thank you.